The Star Citizen universe is going to be really big. Not No Man's Sky big. Cloud Imperium are going for a much more handcrafted feel for a lot of their planets and systems. But what star systems are we going to be getting after Pyro? What are Cloud Imperium's plans for expanding out their gameplay area, and what progress have they made so far? What are we going to be able to explore once Star Citizen is done? So the Star Citizen universe is very small currently. However, Star Citizen plans to have 100 to 120 star systems, with each of these having anywhere between 0 and 10 planets and various moons. This is a huge amount of gameplay area. Currently, we only have a single star system, Stanton, and that's not even complete. Cloud Imperium are still working on points of interest, towns, villages, roads, flora, fauna, derelicts, space stations, environments, terrain, asteroid fields. In Stanton, more specifically, there is supposed to be the Aaron Halo, giant asteroid field, and this will have massive transit gates between Crusader and ArcCorp there as well. Stanton has 4 planets that are very different from one another in terms of biomes and architecture. It also has a pirate presence, has all this sort of corporate presence, and although it is very much a UEE system, it's very much part of the Empire of Earth and has sort of support of the sort of UEE military and all that sort of jazz. It is very much run by those security forces there as well from each of the individual corporations that run it. So the core of that Stanton system is close to being actually entirely finished, and there's a huge amount of stuff that they've been using to build out the Stanton system, tools, but also all the assets they built for the Stanton system, which are going to be used across the rest of the game. Stanton sort of represented a vertical slice of a huge amount of potential gameplay and architecture and all this different stuff that they want to put throughout the rest of the game, which made it the perfect star system for the first one to be built anyway. Those tools are now ready, and they are able to build out a lot more star systems significantly quicker than they took to build out the Stanton system, but even with that in mind, it's going to be many years before they have 100 plus systems in game. So what do we expect for a Star Citizen 1.0 actually out of alpha and beta release? I'm only expecting a handful of star systems, maybe up to a dozen for the initial actual full release of Star Citizen, because then Cloud Imperium will be sort of adding several of these star systems each year. That's not a confirmation, but that is my genuine expectation there. So what are we getting soon? What are Cloud Imperium building towards, and what's that going to lead to? Pyro. That's the next star system that Cloud Imperium games are going to be getting in game with Alpha 4.0, which shouldn't be too much longer away. Some people are expecting it to go into testing by the end of this year, some people by the midpoint of next, but it's relatively soon. This is a much larger star system than Stanton, with 6 planets, and they are much further away from each other, and there's much less infrastructure. It has a dangerous flare star, and it's run by pirates and outlaws for the most part. There are dangerous crab creatures on one of the planets. Various dangerous outlaw factions include Xenothreat, which are anti-alien, human sort of supremacist, and they keep on attacking the Stanton system, but they'll be doing other stuff as well. The Fire Rats, who are sort of crazy fire cultists. Overlords, which are more sort of vigilante justice group, like evil Batman, is the way I'd see them. And there are also various Pyro settler groups, which are sort of more neutral. Now, you may have heard of server meshing, so that's an expected feature of Alpha 4.0, and was at least expected to be bundled with Pyro. It allows for seamless sharing of data between multiple servers that controls various gameplay areas on a single shard. So one server for the space around Planet Hurston, one for around Crusader, and you could have another one around each of the planets in Pyro, or the area around the Pyro jump point. Is server meshing essential for Pyro and new star systems? Well, not really. It's essential for Star Citizen, yes. Eventually they need to get it in game. It's core. Could they get away with a server meshing light or placeholder, or even using jump points as a loading screen in the short term? Yeah, they could. We know that Pyro and getting it out to players' hands is sort of like a priority for Cloud Imperium currently, but we don't know if it's going to see Pyro in testing by the end of the year or at some point in 2024. We have no idea. Cloud Imperium have wrapped up a ton of work on Pyro recently, from points of interest to the system setup to missions to stations. They're working on a load more, but we also know that a massive portion of the work on planets and moons for Pyro was already complete in 2022. They showed them off in the 2952 CitizenCon. In fact, there's only 2 features on the roadmap at the moment showing that they need work for Pyro specifically, which are Pyro space stations, adding small rundown rest stop stations to the Pyro system, which provides basic services and use limited interiors, and the Pyro system, planet, and mission setup, completing the initial foundational work needed to implement the Pyro system into the game. Cloud Imperium are focused on those now, and it looks like they're getting to the end of their work required. Jump points. So jump points connect star systems together, allowing you to access them. A single star like Stanton can have several jump points. You're going to have one from Stanton to Pyro to start with, but they'll open more as more become appropriate and they have the star systems to support them. We've seen the Stanton to Pyro jump point from the 2019 CitizenCon gameplay demo. We do know that there's supposed to be some form of gameplay involved with jump points. Work needed on jump points looks to have been completed in March 2023 for at least the Pyro implementation. From the roadmap feature, this was building out the functionality, visual and audio effects for the jump points used to travel between systems and setting them up in-game, including necessary vehicle items and functionality, the jump points themselves, and the inner tunnels. Previous to that, and completed in January of the previous year, was jump point spacescaping, so basically the environments around the jump points that connect the Stanton and Pyro jump points together. The locations will utilize gas cloud tech and include rest stops and other infrastructure. Originally, Cloud Imperium had said that jump points will have a transit size or max ship size. We don't know if that's still going to be the case, but I'd say it's likely that it is. Some jump point routes just won't be available to larger ships and you'll have to go a longer way round. This will make smaller cargo ships very useful for certain runs, as it can sort of have them make use of shortcuts or having more choice in avoiding more dangerous systems with their cargo routes. And if there's sort of missions which are get cargo here as quickly as possible, well, they're going to be much more suitable for that. It does look like Cloud Imperium are pretty ready for jump point number 1, and we are waiting on Pyro's completion before they get that in. So what are we expecting beyond Pyro? Well, Nyx is the next star system right after Pyro, because we know that because Cloud Imperium are working on it now. Pyro conveniently has a jump point that connects to Nyx as well. So it has 3 planets in that system, previously heavily mined. There are old mining facilities there like Delamar, so this is a giant asteroid, really, with a mining facility on that used to be in the Stanton system, at least not in lore, in actual game, because Cloud Imperium were building it out and they just had it there and we could visit it. There are specific NPCs there. There's a lot of that is already done. They'll probably revamp it somewhat, but it's mostly done. It's home to anarchists and anti-UE sentiment. There is a lot of dangerous but very profitable asteroid mining to be done here in an asteroid field, and Nyx looks like a quite simple star system to implement, with Delamar already mostly done and quite simple planets with no major cities, I believe, whereas Pyro is lawless. I see this system as more neutral, a bit safer than Pyro, but not as safe as Stanton. The Odin system. Again, conveniently, there is a jump point from Nyx to Odin, and we know a lot about the Odin system because it's going to feature a lot in Squadron 42, and most of what we've seen of the system already, and we've seen quite a lot of it, was from the Squadron 42 vertical slice from Christmas 2017. The Odin system is going to have a lot of dangers for many players because there are pirates like the OMC there, and they're pretty well organised and have a lot of equipment and armament and ships. There's also Vandal forces that will probably make incursions into that area, but that's not all. The environment has dangers too. Odin 1 was destroyed by some form of catastrophic collision probably, and in its place there is a giant dangerous gas and debris field known as the Coil, which is quite expansive. There are also very valuable mining opportunities to be had around the area, which sort of gives you a nice balance of risk versus reward. There are 3 remaining planets, Odin 2, where there may be a couple of small settlements and isolated testing facilities on its sort of desolate surface. Odin 3, a dead planet, but there are interesting fossils there, and Odin 4, a gas giant with fuel refineries. There's also a rogue moon, Gaini, that was originally the moon of Odin 1. The system has some other notable locations like Archon Base, which is a massive mining station, Assidio Commerce Station, which is currently occupied by the OMC sort of pirate faction. All of that will feature heavily in Squadron 42 Episode 1, but also in the Persistent Universe once they're ready. There are other star systems that Cloud Imperium have been working on as well. The Lear system, that's quite small, 3 planets there. There's various work gone into the Star Marine map, the Good Doctor, which is set on Layer 2 on Maya, a beautiful planet with gorgeous mountain ranges and a complex history with a political group known as the Outsiders coming to power. Layer 3, that's a desert planet that Cloud Imperium have worked on and is home of the Sand Nomads. Also, the giant sandworm that was originally showcased in the Homestead demo at CitizenCon 2016. There are dangerous sandstorms that move around the planet's surface. We haven't seen Layer 1 in-game yet, but it's supposed to be a sort of rocky mining planet, and it's got like a small industrial-focused population. It might be some time before we see this star system properly in the persistent universe. It doesn't have any jump point connections to other systems that we've mentioned so far as we know, so I suspect that one's a bit further out. The Ellis system has Planet Green, which is part of Star Citizen Alpha 3.20's Arena Commander update and the New Horizons Speedway racetrack that's set there. So Ellis is massive with 13 planets, with a load of them being in the green band. The 5th planet has a couple of moons. Just a massive variety of wildlife and biomes are here, as well as UEE civilization and an asteroid belt. There's tons going on. There is a jump point here that links to the Magnus system as well. This is relevant because Magnus is connected to the Stanton system, and Magnus is quite simple for Cloud Imperium to implement, in my opinion. So it's got 3 planets. Magnus 1, a small rocky planet with no atmosphere. Magnus 2, Borea, which has a sort of the old UE shipbuilding facilities around it, and also now the headquarters for Drake Interplanetary. So there's a bit of a city there. It's like one of the sort of cities that we'll see in Stanton, with one of the corporations there, done in Drake style. And then we also have Magnus 3, which is a Super Jupiter class gas giant. Now, as I said, I think that's pretty simple. I do think that Ellis, quite complex as a system because it's so massive and there's so much going on, but Magnus, very much so, and we could get that pretty soon after sort of like the Odin system. And yeah, that's what I'm expecting, that Cloud Imperium will build out Pyro and Nyx and then link them all together with the Odin system. Then build out Magnus and Ellis, although Magnus, yeah, for sure. Ellis, maybe a bit longer. It is quite complex. That's all of my midterm expectations for how the universe will expand out. Lear, I've got no idea, because we're going to get sandworms and that cool system one day, but it's sort of isolated at the moment, and Cloud Imperium probably want to build towards it. They're probably not going to want to release any of these star systems in isolation, beyond seeing them in sort of arena commander modes. And that's quite viable as well, I suppose, to show off some of these planets. We know, for example, as well, like the Pyro actual skybox in the Dying Star map for 3.20 is going to be the real Pyro skybox. So just some interesting random trivia there. The Star Citizen universe will be populated by various modular and procedurally assisted tech with buildings and biomes there. So there's also a handcrafted element to all of this. Artists use these tools to help build and choose bits rather than generating it all procedurally. There are some entirely unique handcrafted and hero asset bits like the HQ building of Hurston Dynamics. And changes to variants, colours, shaders, and different sort of assets that just slightly modded can go a long way in making rocks, plants, and architecture look entirely different in different areas. Cloud Imperium are currently building out more expansive building interiors, massive underground facilities, and different types of space station. There's a load of work going on into flora and fauna as well at the moment. So these will obviously populate some of the planets and moons that we see in the game. Some of them are going to be barren, some of them are going to be gas giants, some of them are going to be gas giants with animals. We know there's a giant space whale and space whales that are going to be on Crusader. We know that Cloud Imperium are working on boids currently, which are flocks of animals, birds, insects, fish, that sort of thing. But we also know that they've done work on space cows, which will be common in the UEE. The Pyro crab and its small little crablings, big terrifying Cthulhian monsters in Pyro. There are things like the Xiphopods, also known as Oni crabs, which we actually saw in a very, very old gameplay demo of Hurston. They've sort of shown off the Thulshu grey crabs in an Intergalactic Aerospace Expo sort of skit. We know there are things like Ranta, which are going to appear in the not too distant future, which are sort of large crustaceans. We also know that the Boreal Stalker, the Microtech Yeti, is going to be in-game at some point. Giant, scary Yeti monster on Microtech. You can expect a large variety of animals and creatures, and Cloud Imperium are already pumping out tons of plants and trees. But you're going to see the Xi'an, you're going to see the Tavarin, we're going to see the Kurthak, we're going to see the Vandal, we're going to see the Banu. And that's just the intelligent spacefaring races. There are going to be others which are not spacefaring, very, very rarely and occasionally, and there's going to be loads and loads of animals. When are we going to get this, though? Well, we're likely going to see a lot of the new sort of planet stuff and planet tech and new biomes and various system updates at CitizenCon 2023. In fact, I think it's likely that there's going to be a big portion of the wow factor there. Probably a lot on Pyro and how 4.0 will actually work, but obviously, they are expanding out to other planets that aren't just in the Pyro system at the moment. They're working on Nyx, but they're also working on like Planet Green and all this sort of other stuff as well that they're going to be putting into Arena Commander and then eventually into the persistent universe. I'm expecting to see how 4.0 is actually going to work, what do jump points look like, how do they operate, and what can you actually do there. And I'm not expecting Nyx to be too far behind sort of Pyro. Maybe a couple of quarters behind, that's my hope. That might be a very, very optimistic hope, but we'll have to wait and see. Boom! That's it for your Star Citizen sort of universe update of what we're expecting in the sort of medium term. Yes, long term, 100 plus star systems. Medium term, and something for like Star Citizen's release, probably a handful and up to a dozen. I'm really interested to know, what do you think about that? Do you agree with me that, yeah, Pyro, Nyx, yeah, they're coming next, and then they're building towards the Odin system. Bam, they'll get that in because it makes sense, and then maybe they'll build out Magnus. Do you think that they're going to be releasing Star Citizen with only a handful of systems, and then expanding out with several star systems a year? And how many star systems do you think they can realistically make a year? Do you think, yes, well, actually their tools and the assets they built do allow them to build out quite a lot pretty quickly once they actually go into gear with that? Or do you think, no, there's no way they can get that many star systems out a year? Maybe it's only going to be a couple a year if you're lucky, and that sort of stuff. So it will be many, many years before they had 100 star systems in. And how long do you think Star Citizen's going to be supported after it's actually released? Do you think it's going to be a couple of decades? Do you think it's only going to be a single decade? Or what do you think? I'm really interested to know, and if there's anything that I've missed out there, please tell me in the comments below. If you're interested about learning more on the Pyro system, I will link one of my videos that goes over all that we learnt at CitizenCon last year and looks at the planets and the biomes in a lot more detail, because I think that'll be quite interesting for you rather than me constantly going over that same content here. Anyway, whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. The Tobii Eye Tracker 5 is on sale with 15% off until the 28th of July. They are natively supported in Star Citizen, giving you precision head and eye tracking that can help with immersion, as well as adding another level of control to your toolset. It's a cool piece of tech that you can use for streaming and seeing where your eyes are going, and loads of other games are supported too. Check out my links below to get one of those at discount. There are so many space games. Star Citizen is obviously king. Fight me. But how do you keep yourself secure and private while in space, away from the prying eyes of Big Pirate and Big Space? NordVPN.com/BoredGamer. That gives you potentially the best protection in cyberspace. Oh, see what I did there? Stay safer online with a secure private internet connection that also helps you get access to the content you want. Let me give you some testimonials that I'll just make up now. I just turned off NordVPN and got ganked by a load of pirates. I turned off NordVPN and my legs fell off. There you have it. Get NordVPN, because if you're not going to believe those testimonials that I just made up, what are you going to believe? You can grab it from the links below. It's good and it's super cheap and I use it. There you go. Boom. Something else that's good is our ship giveaway. Salvage is the newest big gameplay loop at the moment in game, and we want to help you get involved with that, so we're giving away a Drake Vulture light salvage ship with lifetime insurance. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that is comment on any of my videos made during July. More details in the description below. Thank you so much to everyone that goes the extra mile in supporting the channel with the join button under our videos, or becoming a Patreon, or donating, or even just subscribing and liking and commenting on our videos and sharing them. You'll get an occasional exclusive video. There's polls and posts to get involved with. Please consider joining them, because it really, really helps us out. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any feedback, please chuck it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.